So both of you will together release the very big company. May I now request Prof G.Lakshman to say a few words about the book and its contents. On behalf of Nipm, I request Mr. Ashok to give a bouquet to congratulate him on the release of book and also to welcome him for the Nipm gathering.
So, yeah, thank you. Thank you. So, good evening. So thanks for making it on a Saturday evening, right? And I would like to thank Jabakumar and Mr. Balaji for giving me an occasion to talk and releasing this book, right? It's a great pleasure for writers, and these moments come very rare for authors like me, right? I've not got any PPTs and all that, right? So I would like to come straight and, I would like to start off by asking you all, what is the questions that you want to ask? I will answer from that perspective, right? Instead of me giving a talk from the book, I want you to ask, right? And then if whatever I've written and whatever I'm trying to answer is there in the book, I will open the book and talk, right? And I will try to restrict myself within the book, okay? So, any questions? Any questions across? Yes? Right? It's nice to see a lot of good friends of mine here coming down, and that's what my good friend Giri said, that I just came. Thanks for making. Any questions? Okay. Yeah, there should be a lot of questions, because writing is a challenge, If you ask me, it took more than 4 years to write this book, right? And my colleague, Professor Krishnan, is my neighbor in my campus, and he knows, what I've been doing. Right? So it took a lot of efforts to write. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, being one of the few privileged first readers, thank you so much for sharing the book with us.
Thank you.
Well ahead of time. And in fact, Vinny just sent me an email and he asked me to congratulate you on the book release.
Okay.
And more so, coming back to the kind of questions that, both Vinny and I were really impressed with your idea of impartial introspection. Maybe it's something that you could tell the audience about.
Yeah. In fact, there is a chapter in my book where I write about impartial introspection. And I think it's chapter 4. If you have the book, you can just go down to chapter 4. Right? And this chapter, sorry, it's chapter 5 I've written. Yeah, it's chapter 5. This concept of impartial introspection I picked up from Bhagavad Gita, right? Where the whole essence of Bhagavad Gita, I say, is impartial introspection. That means, I feel in a day, there are thousands of choices that happen to all of us, each one of us. But there is always a confusion between whether this is right or that is right, right? And we are getting confused how to go about doing it. So I have written in this chapter the importance of impartial introspection, and at the end of the chapter, I have given an activity about why it's necessary to conduct an impartial introspection every day. Right? To quote exactly, I have quoted something from Paramahamsa Yogananda. He has written a beautiful book, God Talks with Arjuna. So I'll just give you something very brief, which I always found very nice. which is the essence of introspection. Yeah. This is page 79. Okay. It goes something like this. Paramhans Yogananda is the author of a famous book known as Autobiography of a Yogi. Right? He has written, Paramhans Yogananda says the story of every human being is as follows. Right? As a child, his first conscious struggle begins when he has to choose between a desire to play aimlessly and his desire to learn and study and pursue some course of systematic training. Gradually, more serious struggles force upon him from within or outside by bad company and environment. The youth suddenly finds confronted with a host of problems, and that often he has been all ill prepared to meet, like for example temptations, sex, greed, money making by easy and questionable means. Also pressures from one's own friends and social influences leave him confused many a time. The youth usually discovers he does not possess the wisdom or the will to face such a worldly situation and experience. As an adult, he finds himself in a miserable condition, being overrun by money-making desires, destructive habits, failures, ignorance, disease and unhappiness which wreck his body and mind with scars of damage that gradually becomes irreparable and end in death. This is the story of every human being. So I have given in the 5th chapter the importance of impartial introspection, and the concept here is about being. Somewhere very quickly, there is a small narration. It all begins with a Panchatattva story. That's how the whole concept of how the being evolves and how we need to look into it. So there is an activity there. There's a, it requires, I've conducted this activity. In fact, my old student is there. I don't know whether, I've conducted this activity with that entire team, but I normally conduct a lot of activities around this story that I have built up. Right? And that's the first session about conflict resolution. So chapter 5 talks about impartial introspection and how to resolve conflicts. So in that chapter, it's a very important chapter. Rather, since you asked me, I will share with you. I'm working on a second book where the whole theme revolves around impartial introspection and move forward. So nice of you asking this question.
We personally felt that was one of the important takeaways from the book. So
Absolutely.
Maybe put that slide first.
That's the right. The next area of work that I'm doing begins by taking few essence from this 6th chapter and moving forward. So that's the part 2 of that. Anyone this side? Ladies, yeah, good. Absolutely.
Yes, we are all living our life.
Yeah.
When you say life is balanced and living is not, so what do you mean by that?
Yeah. In fact, I'll tell you this. In fact, I've applied for a patent for this book and this title. Right? It's a US patent. And how did I arrive at this life is balanced, living is not? There's a small story around that, and then I will go jump into last chapter where I talk about it. Somewhere, I was running an entrepreneurship when I came to Bangalore, and it had failed miserably. I was a failed, miserable entrepreneur, and I was looking out for a job, right? And there was a company known as Mercury Goldman. It's a Swiss company. They wanted me to pick up selling, sales training or something like that. They have a very difficult process. It's a 2-day process where they interact with you and make you do psychometric tests. I don't know whether Ravi, who's the MD, does it now, but those days he was doing it. And he made me to sit, he gave me 1 hour and said, hey, you think something and you have to give a briefing to all of us. So at that time, my topic was life is balanced living. It just struck me. And it was sticking with me, this sentence was sticking with me, and I spoke on that. And that was, then I realized, they said, oh wow, it's so great, what nice and all that thing. And it stuck with me, and then that's how this book title came into being. But I'll give you the idea, the theme behind why I say that life is balanced and living is not. This is the main theme of the book, which I have written in the last chapter. This is the 8th chapter, and it goes, I'll tell you the page number, and this is page number 127. I start with a saying, there's a broad heading which I say, insight of our true nature awakens us from delusion. That's the title of it, right? So I begin by saying, many scientists are now acknowledging existence of inherent intelligence in life and in creation.